Hello students, today in this lecture we are going to learn the chapter resources. So let us start. So when we talk about resources, what comes to your mind and what do you mean by resources, by the way? Let us understand. So all those things which are available in the environment which can satisfy human needs, that is called resources. Now, any physical material on earth that is used to us and satisfies individual or social needs and requirement is said to be resources, as I said. Now there are various examples of resources which we see here. So we have animals, rocks, land, soil, mineral, oil, air. All these are the examples of resources because they are of immense use for human. Now, furthermore, if we talk about, there comes a very important thing, utility or usability. Now, utility or usability is what makes an object or substance a resource. If that thing does not have any use, why I will use it? So that is why utility or usability of that object make it as a resource. So things become resources only when they have value. So they should have value and its use or utility gives its value. So unless and until that thing is not useful for me, why I will buy it and why I will pay for it? We are not paying for those things. We don't go and buy those things which are useless. And I will never pay for that thing which is useless. So simply it means when I pay, when I buy things, I am buying because it has some use. Okay? So the pen which is not writing, I am not going to buy that pen because I know that it is useless. So that is what we are talking about. So do remember, utility or usability is very important to call anything an object that makes it a resource. Okay? And furthermore, things become resources only when they have value. And value comes from, that is, its use or utility. Now you might be thinking, sir, what do you mean by value here? So value means worth. That is, worth means, I'll explain you, some resources have economic value, some do not. So economic value, when we pay money for that, for example, I gave you example of the pen. So if I go to the shop and buy the pen, I will give money. So it has economic value. But just imagine, I am going to a mountain and standing there and I have peace. I am paying for that mountain? No. But can we say that the mountain is not important? No, because mountain is also very important because it is giving me mental peace and that is also very important for human beings. And there are a lot of other advantages of mountains we know. It maintains the ecological balance also and that is why it is very important. But I just explained you what is the meaning of value here. So value is worth. So there are some things which we buy by paying money, but there are some things we don't pay money. And that does not mean that they are not important. They are not resources. They are also resources. Furthermore, we have more examples here to understand here. So metals may have an economic value. We know what is economic value when we pay money and buy it. But beautiful landscape may not. That is beautiful mountainous regions where we go and stand. We don't pay money for that, right? But both are important, right? But both are important to satisfy human needs. Furthermore, some resources can become economically valuable with time. So there are some resources, they get valuable with time. Now let's take example here. For example, grandmother's home remedies have no commercial value today. So many a times what happens is we fall sick at home and our grandmother takes care of us and she brings her own remedy to treat us, especially during the time we have the cold and cough. Now, but if they are patent and sold by a medical firm tomorrow, they could become economically valuable. So the remedy which our grandmother gives us, that does not have economical value, but it can have economic value when that will be patent. Now you might be thinking, sir, what is this word patent here? Let's understand. So patent means, it means exclusive right over any idea or invention. So that is the idea of my grandmother. So if my grandmother patents it, then nobody can copy that idea. And if my grandmother sell it to the other business, then she will earn economic value. She will get money for that. So that is what we are talking about, but it will take time. Okay, and technology is also important, because as and when we see that technology keeps on changing, keep on improving as per the time. Let me give a simple example. Just go back 20-30 years back. If you go 30 years back, just imagine what type of mobiles we had, and just imagine what type of mobiles we have today. If we go 30 years back, did we have 4G and 5G? No, but today we have. So as and when the time is passing by, we have the technology improving. So that is what we are talking about. Some resources can become economically valuable with time. Okay? So types of resources. Now let's talk about the types of resources. So we have natural resources, we have human-made resources, and we have human as a resource. So what we are going to understand is, what is natural resource, human-made resource, and human as a resource. Okay? So natural resource. So what are natural resource? So resources that are drawn from the nature and used without much modification are called natural resources. The resources which we get from directly from the nature and which are used without modification. For example, the air we breathe, so we don't modify it, right? We directly breathe in. And the water in our rivers and the lakes, the soil and the minerals, these are all the examples from the minerals that is called natural resources. These all are natural resources which we get from the nature and we don't modify it to use it, right? So let's talk about classification of natural resources. So we know what is natural resources now. Now we are going to classify this natural resources. So we can classify them on the basis of development, on the basis of origin, on the basis of stock, and on the basis of distribution. So these natural resources can be classified on the basis of development, origin, stock, and distribution. Further, they are classified. So if I talk about development, further they are classified on actual and potential resources. And if I talk about origin, they are classified on biotic and abiotic resources. If I talk about stock, they are renewable and non-renewable resources. And if I talk about distribution, they are ubiquitous and localized resources. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to learn them one by one. So let us start with the first one. So on the basis of development and use, we know it can be classified into actual resource and potential resource. So let's talk about actual resource here. So when we talk about actual resource, what is actual resource? So when we talk about actual resource, are those resources whose quantity is known. These resources are being used in the present. Okay? So how much it is there, we know it. And we are using those resources in the present. They are called the actual resources. Let us take some examples here. Coal in the Ruhr region of Germany. So Ruhr is a place in Germany, and there they have coal field and coal mines. So they know how much quantity they have of coal and they are using that. So that is called actual resource. This is one example we have. Second example we have petroleum in the West Asia. So in the West Asian countries, they know how much petroleum they have and they are using it. So that is also one example. Next we have the dark soil of the Deccan Plateau in Maharashtra. So they know how much amount of soil they have and they are using that soil, okay, to grow cotton and all. So this are the examples of actual resources. These all are the example of actual resources. So they know how much quantity they have and these resources are being used in the present. Now, let's talk about the second one, potential resource. Now, what is this potential resource? Let us understand. Those resources whose entire quantity may not be known. So, we don't know how much quantity they have and not used at present, and they are not being used at present. These resources can be used in the future. That does not mean that cannot be used. It can be used in the future, but how? The level of technology we have at present may not be advanced enough to easily utilize these resources. And that is why it might be possible that it is not used everywhere. It might be possible that are not used that much. This is all because we don't have that much technology in the present. Okay, let me give you one more example here to understand before I give you more examples. In Rajasthan is the best example we have for solar energy. So, are every house, all the houses are using solar energy in Rajasthan? No. Okay, so it might be possible in the near future they might use it. Okay, so that is not used everywhere. We have more examples here. We are talking about potential energy, potential resources. The uranium found in Ladakh is of potential resource that could be used in the future. Okay, and it is used at some places, and today in atomic power plants and all, this uranium is used, but before many years that could not be used, right? Furthermore, we have more examples here. High speed winds were a potential resource 200 years ago. Windmills in Netherlands, Nagarcoil in Tamil Nadu, and on the Gujarat coast are installed today and they are used today. But before 200 years, they were potential resources. But as we have the technology, we are using it today. So, this is called potential resource. Okay? So, let's move to the next one. On the basis of origin, resources can be classified on abiotic and biotic. So, let us understand what is abiotic and what is biotic resources. So, when we talk about abiotic resources, do remember, abiotic resources are those resources which are non-living things. Okay, for example, we have rocks and minerals, they don't have life. So that is called abiotic resources. On the other hand, when we talk about biotic resources, so biotic resources are those resources which have life. Okay, so plants, animals, all these are the examples of your biotic resources. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. On the basis of stock. So when we talk about on the basis of stock, we have renewable resources and we have non-renewable resources. So let us understand what are renewable resources and what are non-renewable resources. So when we talk about renewable resources are those resources which can be used again and again, and they are available in plenty. Okay, so renewable resources are those which are they get renewed or replenished quickly. Okay, and furthermore, do remember, they can be used again and again, and they get renewed or replenished. Now that does not means, okay, so careless use of certain renewable resources like water, soil and forest can affect their stock. We have in huge quantity, but if we don't use them in a proper way, what will happen is the quantity which it has, the stock, that will be reduced. So that we should use them in a proper way. It does not mean that if we have enough resources, more resources, so that we can use them in any way. No, we have to use them in a proper way. Otherwise, the stock will be decreased and it will lead to shortage. Right. Next we have is non-renewable resource. So when we talk about non-renewable resources that cannot be used again and again, they get exhaust, and that is why we need to use them in a proper way. Okay, so non-renewable resources are those which have a limited stock. Once the stock are exhausted, it may take thousands years, millions years to be renewed or replenished. So that's why we need to use them in a proper way. For example, we have a lot of examples here of non-renewable resources. Okay, coal, we have the example of non-renewable resources. Okay, petroleum, we have the example of non-renewable resources. Okay, next we have is natural gas is the example of non-renewable resources, and they take millions of years to form. Okay, now next we have is on the basis of distribution. So on the basis of distribution, we have again two. Okay, ubiquitous and localized. So ubiquitous and localized are the two resources on the basis of distribution. So let us understand. Very simple. So when we talk about ubiquitous resources, very simple. So resources that are found everywhere. Okay. So like air we breathe are the ubiquitous resources. So air is found everywhere. Soil is found everywhere. So these are the examples of ubiquitous resources which are found everywhere. Okay. And when we talk about localized resources, so they are not found everywhere, but they are found only in that area only. Okay, so those resources which are found only in certain places are localized. like copper and iron are the example. They are not found everywhere. They are found in certain places only. That is why they are called localized resources. Okay. So furthermore, let's talk about human resource now. Human resource, very important resource. Okay. So human resources refer to the number, that is the quantity, and the ability, that is physical and mental ability of the people that help transform physical material into the valuable resources. So basically, it is the human beings which interact with the environment and which creates the things on the basis of skill and knowledge. Now let me give you an example. Just imagine there is a piece of land. Automatically on the piece of land, there won't be, the crops will be grown. We will get the rice, or we will get wheat, we will get tomatoes. Not automatic. This is not an automatic process. We have a piece of land, automatically there will be a hospital, there will be a school. No. This is all because of human mind. So they use their skill and knowledge to create all this. Okay. So do remember, education and health are the two tools to make people valuable resources. So through what they can be made valuable? That is, education and health are the two tools which make people valuable, that can make them valuable. So this is very important here. Now do remember, very important term. What do you mean by human resource development? So when we talk about human resource development, improving the quality of people's skill so that they are able to create more resources. That is known as human resource development. So there are many programs through which the people are given training. So why they are given training? So that they can learn those things, they can improvise those things, and they can make the resources valuable. They can make more resources. Because we all know that we don't have knowledge from the birth. We all learn it. So that is why through this education, they are improvised, they are taught. Through these trainings, they are made perfect, better. Okay. So improving the quality of people's skill so that they are able to create more resources is known as human resources development. Okay. Now, human-made resource. So what are human-made resource? Let us understand. So when we talk about human-made resource, it simply means resources made by human being. That is called human-made resource. Okay. So sometimes natural substances become resources only when their original form has been changed. For example, roads, buildings, bridges, machinery and vehicles. And who all made this? That is made by the human beings. Okay. So that is called human-made resource. And human being made it with his skill and knowledge. Now, the rate at which resources are produced, this is called productivity. So there are some countries who will produce goods at a fast rate. There are some countries who will produce it at a less rate. Now that rate at which it is produced, that is called productivity. Now do remember, on what the productivity depends. So productivity depends on the level of technology, how good technology that country has, the law and order situation, how good the country is supporting, allowing those things to be produced, the political and social institutions, how good the government is supporting the same thing, and the infrastructure available, that is the road, transport and the buildings, and all these things are available. On all these things, it depends the productivity. Now furthermore, conserving resources. We need to conserve the resources. That is very important part here. So non-renewable resources get exhausted. They cannot be used again and again. And if we don't use them in a proper way, what will happen? They will get exhausted and we will not get them back because they take millions of years to form. And that's why we need to use them in a proper way, right? So resources may also become unfit for we use due to our activity. There are some resources which might become useless. Let's give me an example. Water bodies, the rivers. Because of the human activities, because of the pollution, the water which can be utilized, that is becoming unfit. So we should know where to throw the waste, and that is how we can save our environment and conserve our resources. Now, for that, we have a term here, sustainable development. Now, what is sustainable development? A development done without harming the environment and keeping the part for the future generation so that they can utilize it. That is called sustainable development. And this is the best thing to conserve our environment. So, conservation helps us to use our resources in such a way that present needs can be met without destroying the ability of the future generation to meet their needs. So we all know we have petroleum today. And if we use that petroleum in a proper way, thinking about not wasting it, that will allow the coming generation to utilize it. If we waste it, then what will happen? There will be no resources left for the coming generation and development will not happen. So that's why we should use the resources in a proper way, in a sustainable manner. Now, the following are some principles of sustainable development. So what are the principles here? Let's understand one by one very quickly. So, respect and care for all forms of life. Secondly, improve the quality of human life. Thirdly, conserve the Earth's diversity. Next, we have minimize the depletion of natural resources. Use the resources how much they are required. Change the personal attitudes and all actions should be environmental friendly. So we should have those habits which is protecting the environment, conserving our environment. Let me give you a simple example. Instead of taking bath with the shower, take bath with the bucket. That will save a lot of water. Next we have is enable communities to care for their own environment. So we need to help out, spread the word so that we can conserve our environment. So these are the following principles of sustainable development. So I hope all the points which we have discussed here in this lecture are clear to you. Thank you.